Hi, I want to thank everyone for coming out today, and I want to acknowledge that we're on ceded Coast Salish territory. Our first speaker today is our lawyer, Jay Stray.
Thank you. The action that has been commenced by Bertha Williams and Bill Burnstick is an action against the provincial government of British Columbia for ignoring their own legislation. Under the provisions of the Cemetery and Cremation Act, you cannot disturb a cemetery of human remains anywhere in the province of British Columbia. Now, what has come to our attention recently is this September 2006 report of the respected archaeological consultants on behalf of the provincial government that identified numerous archaeological hotspots indicating that there had been First Nations settlements in this area, and there were First Nations remains buried at a number of locations, particularly at the St. Mungo and the cannery site in the area that is about to be paved over by the South Fraser Perimeter Road. Basically, our position is this is an outrage. If this was attempted on any kind of white man or settlers' graveyards, of course it wouldn't be permitted. But what they've done here is they had this report as far back as 2006, and they basically buried it. If you go through the material that has been publicly disclosed in regard to the South Fraser Perimeter Road, you won't find this report anywhere. The reason is Gordon Campbell's government didn't want you to see it.
We need to stop the road by virtue of being that it is so old, 8,000 plus years, and people being in that ground. Again, if it were anybody else, they'd be stopping it. But because it is what it is, where it's at, we feel that it's just, again, a glaring, very clear intention of big money to bulldoze and push the road through for the sake of making more money to export and import. And the whole thing is just riddled full of holes and should not happen, and it's wrong.
Of where I'm coming from. I'm from the Tsawwassen First Nation. My grassroots is tied to the land there. My father, Harold Williams, is from Tsawwassen Band. His roots is directly linked to the Musqueam Indian Band. It doesn't end there. I've got relatives up in the valley, on the island, down south in the Seattle area. So, we've been in this area for thousands and thousands of years. So, my direct line, plus my forefathers, the ancestors, it's getting disrupted. And I find that very heartbreaking. At this moment, my heart bleeds for the ancestors. Nobody is here speaking, so I'm here as their voice. I'm also here for the future. But today, this is my daughter, Tatum. I'm here because of her future and the next generations to come. As it is with the First Nations, it's all oral, traditional stories. And then from there, those facts come from the archaeological sites that we're talking about, St. Mungo's and the cannery. Once you start paving over that and losing it, where is our facts? And I feel it's very disrespectful for our people to be desecrated. I would encourage anybody that has a stake in this, whether it's non-Native, Native, First Nations, we should be standing together collectively. I want people to stand beside me like my daughter is here. I don't want them to stand, other First Nations to stand, oh yeah, I'm behind you, I support you, come stand with me.
385-86, you go across to this end, you'll see intact human remains. I'm not sure if you can actually see that there, it's kind of hard. And in terms of the actual site, those remains were found right there. You'll see that the black is a representative of the road that they're building. The two full remains were there. There's remains found 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 there. The whole place is littered with remains of people, and it's archaeological finds. A lot of these tests were done by shovel, and the core tests that they did all were positive for high archaeological finds. They're completely aware of what they're doing, and they're doing it anyways. Well, at least they're going to try to do it anyways. And we want the road to stop completely. Ultimately, we'd like to see a longhouse go in that place, a community longhouse where people will know the history of this place.
I see this South Fraser Perimeter Road disrespecting our history, which is uprooting our ancestors and the middens and all the artifacts that lies beneath the surface.
This road in of itself is saying that we're going to scrap anything that is holy, anything that is sacred, anything that is special environmentally, spiritually, on any and every level. It says that we're going to completely disregard any of these things that matter for our kids, for the sake of the children. We've got to, we got to be aware of what we're doing for the sake of our kids. We've got to act out of love. We need to act out of compassion. And we need to be aware of what we're leaving for our children. We need to be proud about the decisions that we make today for those people tomorrow. And it seems to me the decisions that we're making today are to completely disregard anything that is special in our world, to develop a road that will inevitably, displace more fish, that will inevitably destroy more habitat for the animals, that will inevitably remove 8,000 years of history for Canada to be able to see over. There's a handful of people who are pushing for this road to happen, and those people I really feel need to be called to task.